cause your cursor to move. So when it's stuck in a position, there's ways to cause the cursor to move, and you can take certain actions. But hey, this is Windows. You don't do things like that, right?
Well, I didn't know what else to do, so I shut off the computer and started again.
All right. Well, actually, a few minutes ago, mine shut off, and I hope mine just shut off with a thing that's been bugging me for about 3 weeks now. I thought the latest version of Windows had taken care of it, but no. I'm getting an error that basically just closes, just the screen's fine like this, and then it goes blank and shuts down. Anyway, happy birthday to Karim if he's listening.
Who?
My son. Karim, my son.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's his birthday today.
How old is your son?
I think 38.
He's 38. Yeah, that's he's
coming
a
up
year.
No, 39 maybe. Yeah.
He's a year or two older than my son.
Yeah, 39.
My oldest boy.
39 actually. I got it wrong. Yeah.
Do you ever figure out where he is?
Yeah, he's in Kenya right now.
Kenya. Oh, lucky guy. Is he working there?
No. He's retired.
Retired?
Yes.
How did he pull that one off?
He sold his place here, bought an apartment building and a house, and then retired.
Oh, holy smokes! Smart guy.
Right, he's right. Actually, I don't call that retiring. He's writing. And being he's writing, and as I said, being a landlord. But basically,
any way to make money come in,
exactly, it's a good thing.
Well done. Now I know where I'm going to stay when I go to Kenya.
Okay, so I got a note through the door yesterday, labeled "Protect Our Heritage," and it was from the Save the Armory and Protect the Military Museum organization. I don't know what type of a loosely fitted organization. They're basically saying they're asking people to sign a petition to ensure that Niagara Falls protects the heritage of these museums. So Niagara Military Museum, Royal Canadian Naval Association, 56th Field Regiment Museum, Niagara Artillery Museum, 2835 Cadet Corps, 56th Artillery Regiment, Army Cadet League of Canada, Niagara Regional Police and Pipes and Drums, Scouting Museum of Niagara, Lundy's Lane Historical Society, and 2nd Lincoln Militia Reenactment Team. So if you get that, take note, sign the petition.
I will indeed.
And there's they've got a letter of support template that you can send out to your local MP, MPP, etc.,
Yes.
So thought I'd add that one before we get anywhere. All right. So first story of the day is international medical student graduates are calling for a reversal of Ontario's policy changes. And basically, there's foreign medical graduates who are doing training in Ontario, and now being demanded that they have done 2 years worth of high school within Ontario.
Yeah, that seems to be very, very sort of odd, isn't it? I don't really know the purpose of that. The international medical students who are finding it difficult enough to become doctors or nurses or whatever they want, and we can understand that they have to go through a review process when they bring their credentials from a different country.
Yeah,
we want to make sure that they have the quality of their education meets our standards here, and that's very, very understandable.
So we've
But
got these particular standards. We've got people who were coming in where we perceive them not to be quite at the same level, and we're trying to bring them up to that level.
well, we might, but there's many hurdles that medical students really have to, or medical individuals have to go over, and you can understand most of them. You can understand that they insist to have a clear fluency in English or French.
Yeah.
That's essential. That when they come in, they have to write some sort of medical exam to make sure that they are have done the proper work and know the business they're in. But what is this about 2 years of high school education in Ontario? That doesn't seem to fit.
Yeah,
Can you figure that one out?
That's an oddity because, you know, and again, surely if what you're saying is high school equivalency, then they're medical students. They've got that. They must have done high school in their own countries, wherever that is, because otherwise, how would they get accepted onto a medical program? And you don't get accepted onto a medical program by, hey, here's $1 million, put my son in. You know, you might get on the program, but you're not going to get through the program by that, are you?
Well, it says here the new rules apply to international medical graduates, doctors trained outside of Canada who have permanent residency in or Canadian citizenship. It now requires them to have attended an accredited Ontario high school for 2 more years to be eligible for residency positions in the province, which really, what is the purpose of that? Critics say this is just not unfair, but it is short-sighted at a time when millions of Ontarians can't find a family doctor.
Yeah, very unfair.
So explain to me why they have to have, if they're already at a level of a doctor, that implies what you just said, that they've had all the prior education to get them there. And even if they've had no education in their life, walked into a medical school and passed it, they were self-educated and they passed it, what difference would it make that they went to high school or not? It just boggles my mind. I don't know what that is for.
And one has to wonder, you know, and I don't like using a term like that, but you know, there are people who would just say this is racist as heck.
I don't think it's anything near racism. I don't think it has anything to do with it. But because the doctor coming from Scotland, you know, has to have 2 years of Ontario. You know, he's a white guy. You know.
Yeah. And it's odd. You know, we've got more than 2.5 million residents in Ontario who don't have a family doctor, who are desperately needing doctors.
Yeah, we're in a situation exactly that. That's what it clearly says here, that we are in need of these medical professionals, but we're putting unnecessary barriers to them. So what is the why is it? It doesn't go in. The Ministry of Health says they're delivering more opportunities for Ontarians to get started. Yeah. In a statement, they said, to be clear, international medical graduates who do not meet the specified criteria will be eligible, as they currently are, and participate in the second round of the match alongside remaining Canadian medical graduates and blah, blah, blah. However, international, it goes on and on, but it doesn't say why. Yeah. Except for the fact that it has to, that by going to school in Ontario, it establishes a residency of some kind in the province. So it's not clearly stated the purpose of the 2 years in Ontario high school.
Yeah, and basically many of these international graduates are already here. They're trained, they've been tested, and they're ready to work. You know, they've just they're just waiting for their Canadian residency?
I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. In a statement, they say, to be clear, international medical graduates who do not meet the specific criteria eligible currently participate in the second round of the match alongside. I don't know. It's I'm not so sure what this is about. Is it about people who haven't completed their medical education outside of Canada but are continuing it here in Canada, and thereby have to have a high school? Maybe this is one way of screening them. Somebody comes with paperwork and says they're a medical doctor or a medical specialist, and maybe the first round of sort of vetting them is to make sure they can get through high school, 2 years of high school. But
I know of a.
I think an entry exam could pretty much figure that one out really quick.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? Yeah, an entry exam, in fact, was all you'd be needing, right, to cover basic high school, diploma items. And hey, I know of somebody who's actually from this area. Their son has just gone to the Caribbean to complete medical school, and but of course, coming from this area, he will be able to come back because he will have the residency status already. He's already got, high school here.
This has something to do with the residency status.
Yeah.
And in order to be to qualify for a certain, it says here, Amiri passed his Canadian exam, completed observations, and was preparing to apply for residency.
Residency, by the way, is when you are a doctor in a local hospital, not residency here within Canada. It's the residency program in Ontario that has been changed. So it's by the Ontario College of Family Physicians.
Yes. So applied for residency, but was met with a challenge to the policy to be eligible for residency in the middle of the application period, which ends in October. It doesn't clearly explain how it's important that they have this high school education. So I don't know. Then the government just comes back with, oh, we're doing our best to get all kinds of opportunities for these people, but it's just the article is bad because it doesn't really clearly state what is why the high school education is attached to residency.
Yeah. I don't know either, because you'd think you'd already be at that level. Why are we demanding that they have high school in Canada?
It has something to do more with, I don't know. I don't know. I'm pretty confused because this article is a couple days old. I didn't drill down into it. I read it. I remember reading it. So the new rule applies to international medical graduates, doctors trained outside of Canada who have permanent residency or Canadian citizenships. Like I said, it now requires them to have attended accredited Ontario high school for 2 or more years to be eligible for residency positions, but it doesn't tell you why.
Well, Mike is saying colleges and universities have abused the system and endangered Canadians with their lax policies and greed for years.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But as we said before, if they can demonstrate medical competency because they have to do a bunch of different tests and observations kind of thing. So if they're already at that level, I think it's a technical thing doing with residency, something that's not well explained here.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's not well explained. We kind of get you, and this is where, as I say, allegations of racism come in. And as you said, that's correct that it's not necessarily a racist policy, and I'm not suggesting it would be. I'm just suggesting that allegations can be made of that, right?
Well, it'd be ridiculous allegations.
Yeah,
because
but
obviously
you get where they come from.
anyone from anywhere of the world, the whiter than white populations of Scandinavia coming over here would have to go through the same process.
Yeah.
How is it racist?
Yeah.
So the idea is completely unfounded.
Unfounded.
Can you imagine the Ontario government saying, "Oh, let's make up a racist policy," and that racist policy is that you have to go to Ontario high school for 2 years? Though the racist policy would be to take every non-white doctor and say, you did go to Ontario high school, but it doesn't matter because you're brown, and that kind of thing. So it's preposterous accusation, absolutely preposterous to say, and that's what waters down racism and real racism, because people just shoot out these imbecilic accusations right away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So nobody then pays attention to what you're saying when you say it's racist thereafter, because you'll say anything's racist.
Yeah. And I suspect this is a policy that's brought out by the Ontario College of Physicians and Surgeons.
I don't know. In fact, we'd have to dig down a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can ask my Google guy. Let's see here. Why do medical students have to have 2 years Ontario education? High school education. Medical students must have 2 years of education in Ontario as part of the standard 4-year program to gain fundamental knowledge through classroom and lab work before moving into clinical clerkships. Yeah, but it's still 2 years of high school in Ontario to be eligible for the first round of residency applications aiming to build a doctor pipeline. So there's a reason behind it. It's not well explained in the article, and so we'd have to go a little bit deeper to understand why that is. And is it properly written? It's written as if there are actual doctors that now have to turn back and go to Ontario high schools, when it might not be that at all. It might have to do more to do with their fundamental education that's not well expressed here.
Yeah. And that's that whole fundamental education thing. I guess that for those that are now about to take up residency, the big problem lies with them is that how, they're now being blocked from that and being told, hey, you've got to have done 2 years of high school, when that's not, when that's, you'd think, well, they should be excused until the next round comes along, where the policy is absolutely clear.
Yeah, well, the policy is very clear, but it seems to me that some people are caught between. They began their medical education here, and the government has said, okay, we're going to start doing these 2 years. This is what was required, but may not have been required when they first began. So they might be caught in between the transitioning period. But we can't discuss this any further until we get some more details.
Yep. All right, moving on. Police are monitoring resurgence of an outlaw motorcycle gang called Satan's Choice in Northern Ontario. And basically, the monitoring of this new gang has been set up by the old leader of the gang's child. So Bernie Gwandon, who was president of the Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club way back when, was served many years in prison, and now this new gang has been set up by his son Harley. And they're both former Hell's Angels members, but they're both moving, Hell's Angels to Satan's Choice. They just basically, Satan's Choice disappeared into Hell's Angels some 15 years ago.
Yeah, I remember Satan's Choice very well because they had a chapter in Scarborough before they moved out to, I think it was Peterborough, but Satan's Choice, and I remember that they used to go to the Red Barn where I lived, close to where I lived, and they taught us how, when we were kids, we'd go in the Red Barn just to watch the Satan's Choice. We'd go in there, and sometimes we wouldn't pay their bills and all that, and they showed us how to take pickles and tomatoes and stick them on the ceiling. So they would go in there and they would show us. They would take the sliced pickles and tomatoes, and show us how to throw them up, and they'd stick on the ceiling.
Oh my God!
And so they showed us, like, so we were kids, like 9, 10, and we watched this, and so that's what we would do every time we went in the Red Barn. We would throw our pickle on the ceiling.
Oh my God! That place must have smelled. That place must have required special cleaning after a while.
I just remember the contrast of a Satan's Choice guy going to the counter, and there's a guy in a Red Barn outfit with a little hat, and Mr. Total Ordinary Dude, and these guys dressed in leathers and using foul language, and back in those days they didn't have long hair though. They had greased back hair. And but anyway, that aside, the Satan's Choice patched over to Hell's Angels long ago, but we need Gary here actually, because Gary would know a little bit about this. And why the resurgence of Satan's Choice, I don't know. We found out that the Red Devils, which was the oldest motorcycle gang in Ontario, retired their colors. The gang disbanded a couple of years ago after being the oldest one in Ontario. That was the Red Devils out of Hamilton, the beach area there.
They're also saying on social media
before too.
Yeah, social media. Well, social media posts are indicating that new Satan's Choice chapters are popping up in Sudbury, Thunder Bay, Oshawa, and Hamilton.
So what is it with the Hells Angels? Are they losing the grip? These are all these will all then be potential competition. I like to know whatever happened to the Vagabonds too. The Vagabonds were a big outfit. I remember them. I remember when I went to Mosport and camped there to watch a race with friends of mine. We camped beside the Vagabonds because it was the safest place in the whole camp. There was widespread thievery and vandalism in that place, but if you camped close to the Vagabonds, nobody bothered you because because nobody messed with the Vagabonds. But whatever happened to them? The Outlaws are still an outfit out of in and around Woodstock. So my question is, why is the resurgence of Satan's Choice?
Yep. All right. Probably I would say because of the conditions we're facing in society now, more disaffected, more disaffected people, more crime, more just discontent in society is my feeling on that.
I have a feeling that a lot of these guys couldn't. They have different qualifications for becoming a member of Hell's Angels, and a lot of the guys might not qualify. They may be shut out of the operations that Hell's Angels normally do.
Possible,
Now, remember, there was a lot of different gangs. Like I mentioned, the Coffin Wheelers, the Red Devils. There was a Satan's Choice, Vagabonds. There was there's a whole pile of them, and a lot of these guys passed over to the Angels. But I'm wondering if I mean in a province where we find economic opportunity dwindling, I'm wondering if the same thing goes for motorcycle gangs, and they have to sort of reinvent themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's possible. That's possible, I guess. And I think that's possibly what's behind this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting article I put up there just because I thought now I'm wondering if the crossbreeds in the area here, we had an outfit called the Crossbreeds, was very dominant in the area. They passed over to the Angels too. I wonder if the Crossbreeds will be resurgent.
Well, on the there's a building that's out on Montrose Road to the south of McLeod that used to have the Hell's Angels insignia on it for the local club there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You want to piss them off and put Satan's Choices over top of that and see what happens.
Well, the mural's no longer there. It's been gone for probably 5-6 years. But people like John Ringo Bean will probably remember it, and others that live out that way.
Yeah, but anyway, it's just I'm just wondering if they're going to be. It seemed that there was a time when when the gangs were patching over to outlaws or Hell's Angels mostly, but their main rival, at least in the States, were the outlaws, and they had those were the biggest. We know about the Mongols and the Banditos. They are relatively new, but comparatively spoken, they've been around for a while.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if Hell's Angels are, I don't know, maybe overextended. It was almost like the gangs were all kind of getting more together and becoming more monopolized, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But in any case, it was just an interesting article that popped up there because I thought the Satan's Choice were things of history.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Niagara Falls is being touted to host a G7 foreign ministers meeting in between November 11th and 12th, 2025. So it's purely foreign ministers, and I don't know. I would have thought they'd have decided the host city already many months ago.
If you read the article, it suggests that it's been considered for quite a while, that they've had delegations of people here already snooping around and wondering whether or not this might be a good fit for the G7.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's I don't think it's an off the cuff or just a decision that's being made now. It's been under consideration for some time. Now, obviously, for the G7, this is a perfect place for all the people that will be coming here. Is it safe enough, though? That's my issue here, because we are in a situation where we're a town of tourists, and all kinds of people come here from all over the world. Now, knowing that the G7 is coming here, they can start to prepare any kind of nefarious operations they want.
I don't know that we see, aside from anything else, we'd have to have a huge security presence, and the Ontario police, the local police here in Niagara, is just not good enough.
It's not that they're not good enough. It's just not their speciality.
No, it's not their speciality. No.
Yeah, so you're going to have CSIS and the RCMP. You're going to have FBI and CIA and who knows whatever. They're going to have to bring James Bond in here to sort things out too. MI6. You can imagine the Interpol, whoever else. Everybody's going to cooperate. Now, the Americans will be coming with their own security details and their own security. I know a guy in Ottawa that does that. He is one of those people that go to places like when the G7 was in Alberta. He went there, and his job is to snoop around, look for bugs and all electronic bugs and other kind of electronic surveillance stuff that shouldn't be there. He also has to look and snoop out where there might be electronic stuff that would ignite bombs or whatever else. Now, he does the Canadian thing, and each of the different governments has their own experts that come in. Particularly the United States has one that takes care of it all, so they don't rely any part of it on the local security. Anyway, who do we have saying?
Just a whole heap of comments that I'm catching up upon, which from before, mainly based upon the biker situation.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So hello to everyone out there, and thanks for responding. Anyway, so I don't know. It's a good fit to have the G7 here. I don't know, and the security is going to be an issue, but I mean, it's kind of fitting because the United States is stirring up everything all over the world, and we can see the United States
right there, U.S. border. Yeah.
So everybody can go in their hotel rooms and point to the U.S. It's your fault.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I can see it happening, and we have hotels that would be capable of hosting it.
Now, I gotta ask you a question. Like it says here that it's the Coca-Cola City. What the hell does that mean?
This was a term that was coined by this was a term that was coined by Jim Diodati, calling Niagara Falls the Coca-Cola of municipalities. It's a nonsense phrase, and I tried to avoid it when when opening this.
What the heck? Yeah, but to me that's very interesting, and it's actually a kind of a slur on us. For one thing, you're kind of benefiting a company, Coca-Cola, and you say the Coca-Cola of communities. What the heck does that even mean? And as a matter of fact, I would not use Coca-Cola to describe my city in any way possible, because Coca-Cola is a pop brand, and
exactly,
and a very mundane, everyday kind of a drink. When I think that Niagara Falls is very unique, and then you're comparing it to one of the most ordinary things there is.
I think if you imagine for a moment the Coca-Cola advert with the Christmas advert with all the trucks going across the screen, touting Coca-Cola and the Coca-Cola polar bear, etc., and the excitement that kind of brings, and that's kind of what I believe was within Diodati's original coining of the phrase, the Coca-Cola of municipalities.
He's got to change his mind. I mean, the ordinary, everyday Coca-Cola. Come on, we're not the ordinary, everyday city.
No. He's talking about Coke being the fizz bang of pop drinks. It's the king of pop.
Oh God, he doesn't use champagne. He uses Coca-Cola. Well, that tells me a lot about Jim Diodati. When he thinks a compliment to Niagara Falls is calling it the Coca-Cola city of the world. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Champagne.
I don't like it either.
either there's the diamond, the gold city, the platinum city, the shining city on the hill, on the falls, anything. But you compare something. Would you here, darling? I bought you a brand new car. It's the Coca-Cola of cars.
Yeah, I know. Yep, it's all right. And hey, I think the part of the point is that, of course, there's global recognition for the city. We have the tourist infrastructure, but I don't believe that we have the police infrastructure. There's a scenic appeal by doing a photo shoot above the falls, but I also think there's a security issue about doing a photo shoot above the falls, right?
Well, my biggest issue, of course, is the security, and hope that the G7 members are secure. But if they can go to Alberta and be secure, I'm sure they can come here and be secure as well. So the security forces, I think, are important today. And the fact that Canada is just like the United States in a way, it has people from all over the world, and of course, you cannot screen people by the way they look.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder if Marco Rubio will be bringing a whole bunch of Latinos to dump here.
Oh, right. Okay. I think be interesting. I would think they've already made their plans, made their mind up anyway. And this might just be an article to actually warn us that this is coming down the pipeline, because it's only 3 weeks away.
I guess this is what he means by Coca-Cola. He says, I've always said that Niagara Falls is the Coca-Cola of municipalities, meaning that everybody knows about Niagara Falls, just like everybody knows about Coca-Cola. So put it in that context, I would say, yeah, but I would still not.
I wouldn't use the term. Yeah, no. I would not equate us to Coca-Cola at all. Yeah.
Yeah, the most known of all cities. He could have put it some other way.
We compare it
to a brand of pop, I guess. In his mind, I guess so.
Right. And Becky Zoom says, personally, I think the big fat zero of our government.
Yeah.
Big fat zero of our government. Yeah. And did they finish building it? Yeah. Anyway. Let's move on. Can the US declare Antifa a terrorist group?
Yeah, what is Antifa? Let's start there. I was and I don't know if we have enough time today, but a little later on, I'd like to get into what is Hamas too, because we don't understand what's going on over there. To be able to understand an organization is very good for us to put it in context. But Antifa, what is Antifa?
Well, Antifa comes from the term anti-fascism, right? Which which was, well, to call it an organization is wrong. It was a group of loosely organized people who, back in the past, called themselves anti-fascist because they saw themselves as fighting Hitler and Mussolini and other fascist organizations.
Yeah, the origin comes back from the 30s. It may even come from the 20s, but it's a European anti-fascist type organization. Now, at that particular time, if you know anything about German history or even European history, but it shows up mostly in Germany, where you have two extremes. You have the communist faction and the fascist faction vying for power. And they're both extremes, and they fight it out even in the streets.
Yeah.
But both factions are pretty extreme. So you have the anti-fascist movement, which was a combination of those people who were against fascism, and the fascist movement, which were against socialism and communist
Yeah.
approaches. But are all in those days, not all anti-fascists were extremists,
No. And
not left-wing extremists.
in fact, actually, Dave, the people have been putting up, pictures of people, American soldiers landing on the beaches of Normandy. This is the 1940s 40s equivalent of Antifa.
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure that comparison is good enough because it's a citizen organization. So what is Antifa? Does it exist? Yes, it does. Are there cells of Antifa? Apparently so. But Antifa does not have a centralized organization. We find that we were quick to put the Proud Boys, which is a right-wing organization, list them as a terrorist group in Canada. But notice that no such effort was put into putting Antifa in the terrorist zone, because it's pretty hard to define Antifa. Antifa could exist in every different city, but it does not have a firm centralized authority, and it does not really. It only has general sort of ideology between one and another.
And what it says is the term refers to a global loose-knit collection of people who see themselves as protecting society from neo-Nazis or other white supremacists or homophobes. They expose opponents online, organize counter-protests, and try to stop right-wing messages from spreading. It also says about them is that they train in self-defense. I've never heard that's something that in this article is the first time I've ever heard that used, said.
Well, I'll tell you that a friend of mine who is a conservative wanted to go see what Maxime Bernier had to say for the People's Party of Canada.
Yeah.
And so they went to Hamilton. I think that was Hamilton. And they wanted to just go see what they're all about. And not that they agreed with them or anything like that, but they wanted to see what they had a public forum to express their ideas and their views. I would have gone to something like that myself because I would have been interested. There's no way I would have ever voted for the PPE, but to learn and understand what they're all about, I think is pretty important.
Yeah, it's something that that's something that actually in order to criticize somebody, you have to understand somebody.
Yeah. So in any case, so she tried to go there, and they had Antifa people with masks and looked like were set up instead of kind of like the military type. They were dressed in black, and they were outside the place intimidating the people that came in, calling them fascists, calling them terrible names, intimidating them. They were there to intimidate them, and that would be the Antifa. They were there to intimidate the people. They called them different names. They got in their way. They even roughed up an old lady that she said she was told and accosted and called terrible names for just going in there to try to figure out what they were doing. So there was an intimidation process right there.
Well, I get why an organization like that might demonstrate against the PPC, because they see the PPC as a dangerous right-wing organization. Hey, they've got the right to their viewpoint, but what they shouldn't have the right to is push people around and try and stop the, yes, demonstrate against and tell people not to go in here. But when people go in, they've got the right to go in and listen.
Well, they actually, what they do then is paint themselves as the opposite, but worse. Like if they're talking about your anti-fascist pig and your fascist pig and all that other stuff, and we're not going to allow you to go in here, we're going to intimidate you. It tells you that they are the same, but just from the other side. Do you know what I mean? They're the same. They're full of they are for censorship and they are for intimidation. You see what I
Well,
mean?
they're
So
actually there.
they're actually shooting themselves in the foot. Now we
They
see
wear
Antifa
paramilitary
showing up
uniforms.
in the United States during the George Floyd demonstrations. So you had demonstrators, you had this Antifa type outfit, and then you had looters. So you had the three phases of those demonstrations. Now we can assume that the Antifa ones were the ones that were dressed up in armor made up of they armed themselves and put some kind of
Yeah.
homemade
So that
body
whole
armor on them. They put masks on their face and they smashed windows and caused all kinds of disturbances. That was likely Antifa.
And here's the thing: dressing up in paramilitary type uniforms and hiding your faces under masks. I think that is repugnant.
So we can assume that, like I got somebody told me a friend of mine told me what a friend of hers had said that was in New York, and they were in an apartment or a condo, and they were watching the demonstrations, the George Floyd demonstrations. So he said the George Floyd demonstrations came through the town, and right after them, a bunch of guys on motor scooters basically shows up, and they're just like Antifa. They're the ones that went around smashing windows and causing mayhem and doing damage. It wasn't the demonstrators. And then, of course, in other cities, we see after those people, the Antifa types, smashed the windows and all that, then the looters came in.
Of course. Yeah. The looters are opportunity, the people who are opportunist thieves rather than anything else, and thinking, hey, I can get a brand new TV for nothing, maybe sell it for a few $100.
Yeah, of course. But the point is, where did these people come from? They were obviously fairly well organized to come together in groups to cause, to throw
the
rocks
problem
at
is,
windows and
the
things like that.
problem is
So
that
who
they
were
actually,
they? The question is, who are they? Where are they organized? Are they really that loosely organized, or is there a central tenet? And how do they communicate with one another?
Yeah. And the thing is, there's a difference between being anti-fascist and standing on a corner and saying, dressed as I am now with a placard and saying that I believe the PPC to be a fascist organization and we shouldn't be fighting for, shouldn't be voting for the PPC. And just as an example, I'm not slandering the PPC there, right? But it's one thing for a person dressed as I am to be saying that, and quite another thing for a person to be dressed paramilitary style to be saying that.
Well, from the very beginning of Antifa in Europe, elements of Antifa were as censorial. I mean, favor censorship and favor draconian, authoritative government, a la Stalin. So, if you want to compare Stalin and Hitler, or Stalin and Mussolini,
both of them are opposite extremes. Yeah, they're opposite extremes, but they also have the gulags and the concentration camps.
Yeah, so that has to be remembered here, that as we see the government of the United States sort of moving more and more towards an authoritative regime, the opposite, the Antifa, their particular solution to that is to move to more toward an authoritarian leftist regime. But can you classify all Antifa like that? Now, the No Kings demonstration is being painted by the Republicans as a Antifa demonstration. Not very likely at all, because if Antifa behaved like they say Antifa would be, there would be vandalism, and there would be people wearing masks and all that other stuff. But the thing is, can Canada make Antifa illegal? Yes, they can, if they can determine who they are and where they are.
This
and
was
because they do not write, articles. They do not have a central authority. They do not have a policy that is expressed publicly. So how do you find them? And the varieties, and because Antifa, as it is, may exist in small cells here and there, how do then you call them all the same organization?
Yeah.
So how
And
could
actually,
Canada?
this article wasn't about whether Canada would find them a terrorist organization, but whether Donald Trump can.
Well, I think the article says, can Canada
Uh,
make Antifa illegal? Isn't that what it says?
No, the very beginning says U.S. President Donald Trump says his administration will find out who's funding Antifa movement and calling it a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster.
Oh, okay. I read a different one about, or came across a different one, or a little later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, what is Antifa, and can the U.S. declare it as a terrorist group?
Yeah.
They have already declared it as a terrorist group, but good luck in trying to find them. But the problem here is they've declared it. They've made people afraid of this particular organization. It's kind of like the McCarthy era when there was a communist around every corner. They're going to go start snooping, and who are they going to paint with the brush of Antifa? Are they going to are they going to go after Democrats that happen to be progressive? You must be Antifa. And what is their definition of Antifa? They just said Antifa. It's the kind of the big boogeyman, right? But there are all kinds of organizations in the United States that are moved towards an authoritarian rule. They have all kinds of militias in the United States. They have all kinds of. What about the Oath Keepers, and what about the Proud Boys, which we mentioned earlier?
All right,
they're not mentioning them, are they?
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Niagara Police Board are basically saying no to the proposed 13% spending rise by the police.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting article because the police have said that they need more and more resources. They need more and more officers. I think they need 80 more or something like that. Yeah. And they're asking for 13. They're asking for quite a bit of
13.2% budget rise, amounting to 2.13 million.
Which means they and that, according to them, is the cut down version of what they really want.
Yeah,
13% isn't enough. So what they do here is cite. So you think to yourself, "Oh, unbelievable," but they stress that violent crime has gone up in the area, and that we have unique problems as being the center, one of the prime centers of people smuggling right here. And the resources that we have to control that are not strong enough. So they make some pretty strong arguments why they need that extra money. But when I looked at it, and I think, are they looking for efficiencies in other parts of the department? I mentioned before the fancy cop cars they have.
Yeah.
Can they go with a less fancy? You want a safe vehicle for your cops, of course. Yeah, but they are, I think every one of those cop cars costs a minimum of $100,000. They,
maybe even more because they soup up the engines when they get them as well. They spend a lot.
Yeah, most of that stuff is done in the factory. Most of this stuff is done in the factory by order.
Yeah,
so.
I know. See, that increases the cost of the car. So a car that might $50,000-$60,000 would cost the cops for the equivalent car $120,000-$130,000 potentially.
Well, there's special features in a police car, but they're built by a company that specializes in a line of police cars.
Yes.
So most of all that's done. You can order that. You don't have to soup it up in house. You don't have to add things. It's already done. It's got special roll cages in it. It's got special, it's got special. It's got. I'm sure there's particular options that each cop car comes, but it will all come with, like most cop cars have better protection for the driver, because in case if they get into a hot pursuit and they lose control and they roll over the car, they'll be protected. So there's things like that. Of course, the electronics and the computing inside the car is highly important as well. But where else on the budget can you cut back? It seems, and of course, the wages and benefits the police force put out is a strain on the taxpayer too.
Yeah.
Not saying here that it's not well deserved, but it is. That's important. But they're saying here that the crime level and the specific problems of this area need a minimum of 13% increase. Can the region afford it? That's my question.
Yeah. And we were talking the other day about the benefits that have come to this area from the casino. And just putting a question in here and without an answer, does the casino need to pay a little bit more for the policing generally in the city, the area?
They do. That's what the OLG puts out. The OLG.
Do we need to put it over and above what the OLG is already paying? Do they need to pay, put some extra into this budget to help this 13% come to reality?
You want more money from the OLG?
It's one possible source. Is all I'm just asking the question. Could the OLG money go to help fund the police in this regard?
No, it can't.
Yeah. Well, I'm just putting the question out there, right? I'm not.
No, it can't, because that money is Niagara Falls bound, and it's the 18% of that OLG money is put aside for the special police force that for the casino area, and that's Niagara Falls. That's all Niagara Falls. It's not Niagara region. So they do support the Niagara Regional Police Force special casino unit, which makes sense. But outside of that, to take the money from the casino and then put it in some of that into the coffers for other policing, I don't know. I think that would be a bit of an issue.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. The thing is, we certainly do, and we've had a consistent problem with our police budget over the last 4 or 5 years. It seems to be outstripping pretty well everything else in the region. And again, I've called for better policing because we seem to have too many burglaries going on and too many shop invasions, for example, and we're doing nothing about it. And businesses going under because of robberies.
Well, we find that our regular policing is not well adapted to the kind of crimes that are popping up. The store thefts, the mobbings, and the police force are encumbered by a whole lot of calls regarding homeless people and drug addicted people on the road. So a lot of the resources are absorbed by that, which is not mentioned in the article. But they do mention things that are like, for instance, the higher violent crime rate. There are more murders now than there were in 2020, quite a bit more. We're up to 15 murders in the area. That's the more of everyone. And it says here they want a total of 13.6%, which is $241.3 million. And this will add 85 more officers and civilian positions to the police service, which includes 33 officers being bolstering the ranks of the homicide, human trafficking, and child abuse. It says here that the child abuse ones, which is an uncomfortable fact, that they have to triage them to they can't they can't pay attention to every one of them. They have to put the ones that are the worst ones on top, and then kind of wait to get around to the less, like, so that the most egregious ones first. But you think the best thing to do is to hit them all with the same level of policing.
Yeah.
Well, they're making a strong argument there, aren't they?
And okay, so then the question becomes is like, what about other police budgets around the province? And there aren't. So I did ask that of OPP and how those, of Copilot, and how those are compared. And basically, with the budget increase for 25, not 26, was 13.2 in Niagara region, 23% in Napanee, but it was capped out at 11% in total. So 23% was what was demanded. 5% in South River, and other areas have been fairly consistent as well. In the 10% mark. I haven't got no figures for Toronto.
Well, each different city has its own problems, and it says here that we are the epicenter of human trafficking. So that special resources have to be put aside for that. Yeah. Now, I agree with a lot of what he said. Now, of course, this is they're making like this is not like the typical negotiation where you ask for way more than you want and hope that you get what you want by asking for more than you need. It doesn't seem to be the case here. At least they're making that argument that these are the bare minimum things we need, and we need 13.6% more increase just to get just to stay relevant as a police force. I'm wondering where, though, are there efficiencies? And one thing about government and any kind of government-run operations, you can always find efficiencies somewhere. Are there? I mean, I mentioned the police cars. Can they use a different police car?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Why do you need a high-rated, high-speed police car for a cop that's just on the beat?
Can they use coveralls instead of a uniform?
No, I'm not going to say that.
Do they need baseball caps? Anything like they all have baseball caps. Do they need the baseball cap? They have to have a uniform, obviously. They obviously need
and they need body armor.
They need that.
They need body armor. We also need to have them wear cameras.
Well, we don't have cameras, and see, that's going to be an additional expense, isn't it? We don't have cameras here in the Niagara region, and we should have body cams, but we don't have them. And everybody says we should have them, but guess what? The taxpayers are going to have to pay for that.
I know.
So my question basically is where else are there? We can't argue with what they're asking for there. We need more policing. We need more of all that. But do we have an independent consultant? And here we go with the consultants again, I know. But do we have some sort of efficiency expert to going through the police force? They talk about overlaps in all other things. But how many overlaps are there in policing? Where are police directed to? And we find that, like I said before, a lot of police resources are diverted to the homeless and the drug addicted. Can we have someone else go there? Because the homeless and the drug addicted are usually armed, are they?
Yeah, we certainly could have non-police officers in attendance for those kinds of things. Yeah, absolutely we could. Right. And so long as you've got some police presence.
Do we need a sub-police force, like a kind of security force that doesn't carry weapons, but does a lot of the minor work that the police do now? Should we have a sort of in-between zone where we have a security service, or we can maybe even go in the private sector and find security forces that can take care of a lot of the problems with the homeless people that cost a lot of money, or they're the ones that can actually go to a place and take and take reports. When they had an incident in the store I was working with, when I was drumming up donations this summer, they had a few incidences there. They don't even call the police when they caught a guy stealing a computer. They don't even call the police anymore because they know the police aren't going to come. They had an incident, incident which required police attention. Police didn't come for over 3 days. They were, actually, it was day 3, and they were still waiting for them to address this particular issue. And the police didn't show up for all that time. So,
all right, okay.
One of the big frustrating issues, of course, is we talked about it before, we talked about the crime that was going on in the distraction crime and the mobbing crime that was going on, and yet you try to get a police officer to do anything about that, and it's not because they don't want to, it's because they prioritize everything, and the minor crimes that frustrate most people get put down.
Yeah,
right.
And the question about whether we're a hotspot for human trafficking, absolutely we are, and a lot of the reasons is because of our border location, close proximity to the US, our large hospitality and tourism sector, because of high visitor traffic, transient populations, which create opportunities for exploitations, especially within hotels and short-term rentals, and transportation access, because you can get people out of the city and away very, very quickly. And of course, the other thing, which is an important factor here, particularly in the Niagara region, vulnerable populations, including youth and migrants that are economically disadvantaged and are at higher risk for trafficking.
Yeah, so this is a unique policing situation here. So you're going to have specialized services, ones that are created, detectives and units that are specialized in that particular field. And of course that takes money, and it takes diligence to look at it. So when the police force comes to the region and says, and the police say, do you really want us to sort of water down the human trafficking? What is the region going to say? Now, I don't know how many games, like normally when you do negotiations of any kind, as I said, you want 20, so you ask for 40.
Yeah.
You hope to get as close to 20 as you can.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, because of what they said, and I'll return to this again, I have no doubt that the police want this money for the right reasons, and they have to update their services. My issue is that in every department, everywhere, there are efficiencies that can be found, and police forces and fire departments are loath to look for efficiencies have those efficiencies suggested from outside.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to have to leave it at that point, because we're way past the deadline.
Okay. Have a great weekend, everyone. I will bring up Gaza again. It's a very tenuous thing that's happening there. Everybody expects that the Israelis are looking for any excuse to continue the war. Netanyahu needs that to happen because he has corruption charges pending, and they have been delayed as long as this war goes on. And that may be one of the reasons why they're looking for more. Plus, Smotrich and Ben Gvir are looking for excuses to begin there's settler movement in Gaza. So unless the United States stays firm, and we know that Donald Trump has an attention span of a flea, if he keeps on point and reins in the Israelis, we might have a chance. But the Israelis are the ones that can want to continue this, or at least Netanyahu. Without further ado, I bid you adieu.
And have a great weekend. See you Monday.